She's a television icon. She has been on live with Regis and Kelly, with Kelly and Ryan for oh so many years on our television screen. She talks about her new book, Live Wire, long-winded short stories. It's available right now. It is an inside look at Kelly Ripa's life throughout, not just live, but her marriage with Mark Consuelos and more. She writes every single word of this book, and we talk about that. As somebody who's written two books, I understand the process of what she has to have gone through. So Kelly Ripa joins us this time on The Collection. And she joins us right now to talk about the brand new book, Live Wire, long-winded short stories, which might be one of my favorite subtitles in book history. Kelly Ripa joins us this morning. Kelly, congratulations on the book.
Brad, thank you for having me, and thank you for appreciating my subtitle.
Well, it's all in the subtitle, and it really tells the story of the book, long-winded short stories. This is a book that I know is doing fantastic right now, but let's really just dive into it. I mean, why do this? I guess is the question, because you wrote every word of this book. It was a 2-year process for you, from my understanding. Sometimes people have ghostwriters and things of that nature. You said, no, none of that. I'm doing it on my own. My question to you is why?
Stupidity, hubris, arrogance, ignorance, all the deadly sins. That's really the only reason I can think of. I just thought that I would be able to do it. And it was so challenging. It was really much harder than I thought. It's also sort of diminished my love for reading, because now I cannot read a book without thinking about how much the writer must have gone through to bring us the book. So it's this dual thing. I just really knew that I speak and tell a story in a way that only I could do. I didn't think that working with another writer would be beneficial. And if you've read the book, or people who have read the book, take away the fact that you think that a story is going in one direction, and it always takes a left turn or a right turn or a twist right in the middle that you didn't see coming. And so a chapter that you may think is about one thing winds up being about something else. And that was not intentional. It's just the way I tell stories, and the way I always have told stories. I mean, I've confused myself, when I'm doing host chat in the morning on the talk show, I will start out talking about one thing, and then next thing you know, we're talking about the weather, and I think to myself, how did we get here? How did I get us here?
Yeah, it's such an interesting process to write a book. I've actually written two myself, and here's what I remember. I remember writing the first one, and after the process was over, I was reminded of Daniel Craig. He was asked if he was ever going to play James Bond again, and he said, I'd rather smash this glass in front of me and cut my wrist than to ever play James Bond again. And that's how I kind of felt about after I wrote the book. The process was so hard, I never wanted to do it again. Do you have any desire to ever go through this process again?
So I feel exactly the same way. But the reality is they cut 200 pages out of the book. And my editor keeps saying, well, you already have a second book. I mean, it's sitting right here, because these stories, as long-winded as they are, they were even more long-winded. And so I just think that I'm too close to it right now to say definitively if I will or if I won't. It was so much more work than I anticipated. And again, I did this while doing my job. I think that if I was only writing, I could write, and I probably now, knowing what I know, would write more efficiently, and I would do all of the tricks that writers have now told me to do: create an outline, follow an outline, know what you want to write about going in. All of the things I didn't do. I was writing from the top of my head to my computer screen, and sometimes a legal pad. because I am a more efficient writer on paper than I am on a computer. And so it's with that spirit, knowing now how kind of to construct a book, that I wouldn't say no, because I never say definitively anything. You know, if you had asked me, would I still be hosting a talk show 23 years later, I would have told you I will never get past the third year. You know, but here I am, and it's become the foundation for my life and, you know, my professional life anyway. But I never say no to anything, but right now I'm just way too close to the process, because writing a book is hard, but selling a book is so hard. If this was your book, Brad, I can tell you definitively I would have no problem selling your book. But selling my book feels gross, you know?
Yeah, again, because your book is such a personal look at who you are, not just as we know you from the television show or the things that you've done, but you talk about a lot of difficult things in the book. Again, it's called Live Wire, Long-Winded Short Stories. I wanted to ask, though, because you bring up the talk show live, and you're live when you're up there, and you really only have one shot to do it. You get on, they say, we're on air, action, go, and whatever comes out, comes out. With a book, you have the ability to go back and edit and read it again and think about it, and you're driving, you say, should I say that, should I not say that? What were the big differences? Did you enjoy having the ability to go back and edit, or is it kind of, do you prefer just, hey, one take, I got to get it done?
Yeah, it was funny. My editor kept saying to me, we have to finish. It's done. And I was so I had a drop dead deadline, you know, where it goes to the printer. And I was making rewrites and re-edits up until midnight of that deadline. I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. My husband came downstairs to the kitchen and he said, you just have to do it. Just pull the plug. It's, you know, it's great. People are going to love it. They're going to get a lot out of it. It's great. Just pull the plug. And when I tell you, when I was recording the audiobook, I started finding things that I wish, like, I started finding funny bits. I started finding the bits, saying to myself, I should have said this instead. You know, I should have. So yes, I do prefer the live aspect, because in the words of Michael Gelman, our executive producer, it's never as good as you think, and it's never as bad as you think. And yet, when you're writing a book, you are constantly thinking to yourself, I could have made this funnier. You know, when the last chapter in the book is actually the chapter I wrote last. What's interesting about that is the book is stacked in a way where the chapters I wrote first, second, third, they're in all different orders. This is a non-sequential book. But the last chapter is the chapter I wrote last. And I really thought that I figured out how to write in that last chapter. And I begged my editor, I said, let's just push it back a year, because now that I know how to write, I want to rewrite the whole book. And she said to me, you sound like every writer I've ever worked with. And then I was like, okay, I guess this is some suffering that I just I'll never be able to get over it, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying. And, you know, I prefer, whether it's a radio show or a television show, going live is better. I read a quote from Vince McMahon one time, and he said, it can't go wrong if it's live. And I kind of live life on that one. I have time for one more question for you. You talk a lot about your husband, Mark, in the book, and how he's a reassuring force. Sometimes he's a grounding force. He was even an editor for you at times throughout this book. I'm recently married. I got married less than 6 months ago. So I have to know from somebody who's been able to do it for... Thank you. Thank you so much. From somebody who's been able to be successful at it for 2.5 years, not more than 2.5 years, 2.5 decades. What's the secret? You got to give it to me. What's the advice I should know?
You know, here's the thing. You love each other. You're married, right? So
Right.
you love each other. You're in love with each other. All of that. That kind of thing is a roller coaster ride. You're going to be deeply in love one minute. You're going to be, you know, comfortably numb the next, right? So these things are decades-long marriages. You find that you really settle in. the key is to like each other, to make each other laugh, to be grounding presences in each other's lives, and to really bolster each other up when the other person needs it. And that's really, for me, I think what the key to our success in a marriage is, because we obviously love each other and we are in love with each other and we're hot for each other. And sometimes we're not. And sometimes we fight because we're a normal couple. I mean, as evidence in the book, we are a really normal couple. But we really like each other. We respect each other and we admire each other. And I think those are the things that really count, that really get you through the lean years, or the years where there's tragedy, or the years where there's comedy or whatever. You have to really like the person you're in it with. So just keep the like, because the love is there and it will always be there, and it metamorphoses and it grows and it changes. But you have to really wake up and go, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to see my person. And there's going to be days, by the way, where you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I wish I could fake my own test right now. But that's
Okay. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Livewire, long-winded short stories. The book is out now. Kelly Ripa, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.